Okay, so here's the situation. First of all, I'm going to give this to whoever is. Can I speak to the highest ranking, who's the watch commander, whoever is the highest ranking person at this juncture, so I don't have to waste time?
You can't film in the station.
Pardon?
You cannot film in the station. And you already talked to a supervisor.
I didn't.
They said they went on the scene.
No, I couldn't wait all night. I had to leave. I had to go before the facility closed to go back and fix the problem that was created. So I never got a chance to speak to the supervisor.
That's why you got. What did you get tickets for?
Ah. You know what, an email address, if I can get an email address, I tried right now to serve documents because my first thing is to prove violations of 18 U.S.C. 242, which is the deprivation of right guarantee.
I don't know any about that.
Okay, but the point is this.
Tickets right here. This is
What's
all,
that?
I don't care about what happened 20 years ago. This is on.
No, it's not 20 years. It's what happened tonight because I'm convinced there was a commission of a federal crime, a couple federal crimes.
You're going to have to go to court. That's the end of the story.
Okay.
That's it.
But at this point,
That's it.
my burden to enforce the protections of the contract that the Constitution of the United States constitutes. Pardon?
That's why you need to go to court and state your.
Okay. I'm subject to a burden to mitigate damages.
We cannot amend those.
No one's asking you to amend them.
Okay. So
All I'm endeavoring to do is this, I have a series of demands. If I can get an email address, I can.
cityofchicago.org.
What's that?
cityofchicago.org.
Okay.
That's it.
cityofchicago.org. That's not an email address.
He had tickets and he's
Yeah.
complaining about.
Okay. Are you the supervisor, the watch commander?
How come not yet?
Okay. Here's what my burden is. The first thing is to try to examine those two people. That the Tulis was one of them, and whatever the other person's name are. They were fighting me the whole time. They refused to provide. Tulis refused to provide his name or his badge number. Then he came around and turned it into a coercive encounter, and at that point I was able to get his badge number and his name, but he wouldn't even provide his name or his badge number. And I was simply seeking to get a supervisor because there's always a burden to protect the public treasure. Okay, that's a burden. I can never.
I've heard you at the
Pardon?
I've heard you at the police board meetings before. You bring up a lot of good points. So I mean, I understand that you're actually very involved in this.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. You know, one of my big concerns, since Sergeant Gorecki saw me in 2006, the first time I ever saw him was like, why do you have to do this here? Why can't you go somewhere else? Now when I see Sergeant Gorecki, he actually is grateful, and he extends his hand. And I like to think that maybe some lives of first responders we've prevented a replication of September 11th because I'm continually forcing the issue of what is the driving agenda on a global scale, so that this is one of the most dangerous places in the world, given that Rahm Emanuel is the mayor. His parents were the individuals who started the Israeli terror network in 1948. A lot of people may not know that. So the point is, one of my biggest priorities has been, by keeping these issues on the front burner, it then causes, like turning the lights on when there's thieves and banging garbage cameras, it's going to cause, it deters it because it attracts attention to it. So I will never have to see another September 11th where I have to see people jumping out of buildings. That to me was unbearable. I tried to join the Marines at age 41 because I was deceived until I started doing more research and figuring out that it wasn't 19 gold herders with plastic box cutters. They couldn't have possibly done that. But here's all I'm trying to do at this juncture.
Sure.
Just
Paperwork? So this was. Did you receive this today?
those two tickets, correct. Here's a long-term solution to this problem, and that's simply to get all the malum prohibitum, these type of things that are not malum and say, declared to be unconstitutional as applied to the activity of people like me. So now when John F. Kennedy gets assassinated, let's say the Knights of Columbus, before John F. Kennedy's assassination, had all said, you know what, we're afraid, based on what this guy did in June, he stepped on the toes of the Federal Reserve Bank, and the other things he said about secret societies and so forth. And I just use the example of Knights of Columbus because there's some measure of record to this. That what we're going to do is this. We're going to gift John F. Kennedy the money to purchase life insurance premiums on themselves. You can never purchase life insurance premium on someone else because then there'd be an interest in that person. Right. So the point is, we're going to gift John F. Kennedy the premiums. He can purchase life insurance on himself if he thinks that that's justified and necessary. And then what's going to happen is we're going to go in and get a declaratory order that under certain circumstances, either all laws that are not malum and se are declared to be unconstitutional temporarily until we can return control of the money supply to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of the Constitution, which protects the purchasing power of the currency. Only the Congress shall coin money and regulate the value thereof. What happened on December 23rd of 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, which is patently unconstitutional, is that these 10 banking families took over control of our money supply. And as Amschel Rothschild said in 1786, I care not what puppet sits on the throne of Britain, as long as I control the money supply of Britain. Because eventually, through incentives and disincentives, they will be able to buy the whole monopoly board. So the point is, at this juncture, in terms of a long-term solution for this, that there's in the Catechism of the Nominally Catholic Church that says, great care must be taken that the interests of the members of society never be put in odds. That the interests be kept compatible and not at loggerheads.
And you have some concerns.
Pardon?
You have some concerns about that.
Well, right, because the point is, here's the point. If all of us people at the lower level are in conflict, then the 10 banking families are going to continue to be able to push the buttons and pull the strings, and we're in internecine conflict, and these people are going to continue to do what they're doing. So this is a way to, there's a number of different things. Let's just say we could all start printing money just like the bankers do and put it into circulation. And if we all did that and stuck together, they couldn't get a conviction on anyone. We could totally implode their competitive advantage because their competitive advantage is simply because they have something that has utility, the currency, and is scarce. So by controlling that, they can eventually incrementally do what they do done is get control of the monopoly board and squeeze the rest of us out.
Well, let me ask you this, though. In the way of being here at a police station,
Right.
what is it tonight?
Okay, the first thing is to disseminate this as widely as possible, because what I'm saying is, if when Kennedy got assassinated, enough individuals could have gone down to Dallas with this type of document, a declaration of unconstitutionality of all malum prohibitum, the evidence could have been locked down at the time. Then there could have been a non-counterfeit investigation of what happened. And then the actual culprit, it's simply preposterous to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald, with a single shot, killed Kennedy from behind. That there's never been a tissue displacement at the entrance wound and no tissue displacement at the exit wound in any chronicle shooting in regard to which I am cognizant. Now we fast forward to First World Trade Center, Oklahoma City, on September 11th. Because there were these laws that members of the FBI were enforcing under the color law, they were enforcing the protection of all of that evidence. And all of the people who were victimized, the families of the first responders, I would think that you could think of what that would be like for a child of a member of the city of New York Police Department or Fire Department or the Port Authority to lose his or her parent when they walk into what is demonstrably a trap. So the point is this: if we had had this type of declaration in regard to a certain component of the population that had demonstrated a certain measure of rectitude, we simply could have come in and all the members of the FBI and the other policing entities could have stood down and we could have simply said, there's no precedent instance in history in which in this type of incident, the victims have been denied opportunity to preserve and examine the evidence. Okay? So what I'm saying is, until the control of the money supply is regained and the worst 1,000 criminals have been at least indicted in their process, as soon as that's occurred, we return everything back to normality. But in the meantime, by declaring these criminal laws to be unconstitutional, now we will put another September 11th.
Can I give you a thought on that? Well,
yes,
two thoughts.
please do.
One, I think this says here, when you're talking about laws or wanting to make some changes to, because all we do on this end, and in terms of us being able to pass that out or to get that information out, we're not able to do that. We're not able to take a political stand one way or another.
I understand, but you can't accept this because you're all voters. You also have.
I certainly could take information from you. I just can't pass it out.
Oh, and I'm not asking you to disseminate off the table.
Okay. Is
What
that
I'm
what you
saying
would like
is
me to take?
Pardon?
Is that what you would like me to
Yes.
take? Is this your only copy or?
Pardon?
Is this your only copy, or?
No, I just had a dozen copies, I just didn't have time, but I'll print out more copies.
Okay.
But what is, I'm disseminating this to as many people as possible.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because
But then my other thought is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just kind of want to get you some direction.
But that's the first objective.
Good, no, good.
That's a much larger objective.
No, that's fine, I'm happy to take it. But when you're talking about wanting to start to change some laws, so basically our role, and I obviously know you are very well educated as you're talking to me, you would know that we just enforce the laws. We're very limited in what we can do to change it, but it sounds, or rather it looks like from what I see here, you're going to have a date where you're actually able to talk with the judge. Those are the people who are charged with the responsibility, more able to have input on that. So I think, and again, like I said, I've heard you speak at the police board, so I know you put a lot of time into things, and you're going to have an opportunity to talk at that time. You might have more recourse there than anything that we're able to do here for you tonight. I'm happy to take this from you. I understand that you have an important mission, so you're trying to touch all the bases.
But in other words, that's the top priority.
No problem.
I sometimes you take a strike, sometimes you take two strikes, because the larger good, this guy's going to try to steal second base, and you don't want to turn this into a double strike. So sometimes you absorb things because there's a greater good, a greater evil to be prevented, and that's, I guess, I have many complaints individually against members of the city of Chicago Central. There's also provided many severe service testimonials, because when someone complies with the law, someone who goes against the system, when he bears the burden of the office, and I then become the beneficiary, I'm not so lacking in a sense of shame and decency that I don't sense a burden to reciprocate. When Detective Joseph Luscaro looked at this 18 years ago at this criminal telephone harassment, and he looked at it and he listened to me and he said, "This is the biggest waste of time I have ever been involved in 29 years in the Chicago Police Department, to try to shut you up by this law firm because of what I now understand constitutes your complaint to a law firm about the way they're practicing law." So the point is, when that guy goes in and he says, "I'm not going to arrest you. I'm going to give you a ride back to where you were picked up." So when Joseph Luscaro does that, there's a certain gratitude, and now I want to reciprocate. I want to help protect him, because I want to make the whole thing stronger.
Well, that's why I wanted to give you some of that input. Now, one of the unfortunate things is actually you came at a good time, but I am going to be going out now. As you know, we have to be on patrol out.
Good enough. All I got to do, okay, guys, all I wanted to do was this. Sergeant, right? Or lieutenant?
But that's fine.
Okay. Oh, lieutenant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. But anyway, here's the point. There's a burden for me to mitigate damages.
Okay.
And what I'm really trying to do at this point is, because when I see something where the declared alleged purpose of the law is actually accomplished, and then there's a second problem, is that the revenue aspect of it can become very abusive, as I'm sure you're familiar, and that's one of the complaints throughout history against the king, that the king, the sovereign, whoever that would be, finds some type of pretext to start extracting money out of the serfs, the peasants, the people who are below them, that doesn't require him to raise taxes. It can be selectively applied, so that, I can't believe a person from Astor Street would have gotten 2 tickets. If my address had been Astor Street, or they recognized that I was a Heisman Trophy finalist 2 years ago or whatever, I can't believe I would have got the ticket.
Well, I want to be real clear with you about that. Okay, we don't have any bias.
Well, you're supposed to, Henry, but the fact of the matter is very difficult to follow.
You're 100% right on that.
Pardon?
I'll tell you, we're all human, so of course there's always going to be biases, but we do not act on any bias, and I want to be real clear about that.
But I guess what I'm saying is,
It's not a hope.
and if I could get an email address, and when I get a basic, my burden right now is to mitigate damages, and my burden is to lock in those 2 individuals into their state of mind, so that they can't test the line in the future. Because I'm sure you're familiar, 18 242 and the official misconduct are both specific intent crimes. So if they didn't cover their moral liability, which I understand in Illinois versus Crow, under the circumstances, there's just no way, if I was a police officer, I could give that type of a ticket, because...
Well, you must understand indemnification. You understand indemnification, so anything done in a good faith of discharging one's duties is going to ultimately be what weighs above.
Right. But here's my point. My understanding is that couldn't have been done in good faith.
Okay, but what I can do, and I think what my colleague is trying to show you a little bit earlier, is we have a website. Now, I understand you want an email address, but there's different links that you have to go to for the specific thing that you're trying to seek out. So I'm happy to write that down on the back.
Please, give me that, and then give me, because I want to post this whole thing up on the website of whatever, if this district has a website, and then I can email this whole document. I just took the time to produce the whole document because
Okay.
it's got all these points.
So that's www.chicagopolice.org.
Okay, and this is the 14th district, correct?
This is for the city of Chicago police.
Okay, is there any way, there's got to be one for the 14th district, an email address, right?
Well, what you can do is, again, that's why we wanted to direct you to it, okay? There's different districts once you're onto that website.
Okay.
And you will find one for the specific district where you want to find out more information, okay? We have crime information, different contact information, and you can go to that website, okay?
Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and email this, the entirety of this document, all the documents I prepared, and then whatever happens, happens. But the big thing is that my understanding, the public is entitled to every man's evidence. The public is entitled to see the priorities according to which this activity was conducted.
Okay.
And that is so high a priority because if people don't understand the actual priority, one of the reasons I gave it to these police women is the Pierce pretext and to require compatibility demonstration so that we're not deluded when Rahm Emanuel says that the purpose of why he's implementing some measure is such and such, then I'm going to try to make an answer against the rest of this evidence that's entirely incompatible with what he's saying.
Yeah.
Now we went through 1,000 police officers. How many of those guys have been ringers that are actually Mossad or Keto assassins that still try to get in the back door? You see what I'm saying?
I do, but here's the one thing I do want to say because I have to head out to the field now. So as we know, I'm the highest ranking supervisor who's here right now. There isn't, unfortunately, going to be anything else.
So I've exhausted my remedies to this juncture.
Well, you get your first priority done. So I have this right now.
Right, and then there's nothing more I reasonably could have done under the circumstances because my having to go to court and everything then becomes compensable if it's proven that I was in the right. So I want to keep the cost. One of my biggest things is keeping. I accept no money from the public treasury because I want to have a positive balance. I'm eventually going to repay my college loans and everything else, so that in the balance. I don't have to look back on that last day when I stand for judgment to the God with the wouldas, couldas, and shouldas coming back to haunt.
I don't think that
They don't want to think the greatest thing of the dam is the remorse of what it is that they Tolkien said the same thing when he got in the death camp. Oh, how we pined away to sleep, knowing that if we had done more when they came to round us up, all the intellectuals, the dissidents, the competition, the regime, they didn't do enough.
Well, I think you're doing everything you can. And
but for now, Sergeant Lieutenant, there's nothing more I can reasonably do tonight.
I don't think so. For sure not.
Okay, thank you. So that means there's no more burden. I'll send this along, or I'll come down and print it out, or do whatever.
Go to that website and be there on that date. Okay.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a proposal because the other thing I really wanted with this stuff is I wanted to get because all the information that they get on me, like if I got the home addresses of those two members of the Chicago Police Department, if there was no one-way street, if it was no double standards, no one-way street, where all the information is available, we can eliminate the problem of anonymity and we can restore person-to-person accountability because now the same evidence that they have on me.
Well, just so you understand, we're thinking about there's difference between professionalism and privacy. Okay, that's to be related. So we don't need to be talking about where people live or whether or not.
All right, but anyway, because that's one of the issues I'm going to raise, because it's a way to restore accountability. Okay, but anyway, if I can't get that, I can't get that. I got to move on here. Thank you.